Hello everybody, this is PhatBottomGirls, and today I'm going to be bringing you an episode of Should You Buy. I'm going to be doing Bioshock Infinite today, and Should You Buy is going to be just like a new name for the full reviews that I feel like doing on games that I own, and most likely complete. I'm going to be listing all the goods and the bads for games that I do on Should You Buy. Yes, I did say bads, and that should be very surprising since this game got a 10 out of 10 on most reviews. Bioshock Infinite costs $60 right now, and most reviews gave it a 10 out of 10 or at least a 9.5. But I'm here to tell you guys what I think about the game since I beat it, and what I think was good and what was bad about the game. I'm going to start off by saying that a lot of the goods were very important to the game, but a lot of the bads took away from the full experience of the game and kind of overall ruined it for me. That shouldn't give away too much though, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off by listing all the goods and the bads, so you guys can have like kind of a shortened version of this right now, and then I'll go into more detail on each one, and at the end I'll tell you, in my opinion, if you should buy this game or not. Alright guys, time to get onto the list. I'm going to start off with the goods first. So the first one I have on my list is graphics. Second one on my list, which kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, is that the game is jaw-dropping. It really is. Third one is that there's no punishment for death. There really kind of is a little bit, but I'm going to get more into that a little later on. Fourth one I have is that it incorporates historical figures into the game. And the fifth one is storyline. Now with the storyline, another point that I have is that it's a very long game. I wouldn't say take you a whole day to play it, but you can beat it in one sitting. And the last one that I have for good is the ending, which I'm probably going to save to the end of the video because I don't really want to spoil anything for you guys that don't want to hear it. Alright guys, time to get onto the list of bad things that I found in Bioshock Infinite. First thing I have on my list is that the X button does too much in this game. In my opinion it does. It may not be the same for you guys. Remember, this is all my opinion. Second one kind of goes along with the first one, that the looting was pretty terrible in this game. I did not like it. Third one kind of goes along with the X button doing too much as well. Elizabeth will throw things at you in the game for you to catch, like ammo, health, and salts. Fourth one is that the controls were very floaty at times, I felt. This is all my opinion. You guys may like the controls, but I felt like it took away from the experience a little bit. It had a much harder time aiming and stuff in this game. Number 5, the game is very repetitive. I have a little story I'll tell you guys later on in the video when I'm going deeper into this, how this game is repetitive, and it'll kind of back up my point on this. Number 6 is that there's no variety in the enemies or the guns. The only variety really in the enemies is the guns, and when you're using a sniper like I was through like the entire story, most of the enemies died in one shot anyway unless they had armor. Number 7, you can't manually save. This was a huge problem for me, especially in the Let's Play that I tried doing. I'll get more into that later, but I can't stress this enough. If you're going to make a long game like this, and you can't do it all in one sitting really, you just gotta put in like manually saving. Number 8 I had was bad guidance. This game didn't really tell me where to go very well, and it didn't have very much tutorial of the game at all. Number 9 I had that the game was very laggy, especially when you went into the stores. Very laggy. I could not really scroll up or down in the stores without it lagging. Number 10, the story was confusing. That really put it over the edge for me. That was a pretty important thing, the story. Of course that's an important thing, what am I talking about? But it was very confusing to me. I didn't really understand it. Maybe that's because I didn't play Bioshock 1 or 2, but if you guys did and you understood the story better, tell me in the comments, because that'll help with people who are wanting to know if they should buy this game or not. Now that I've given you guys a full list of good and bad in Bioshock Infinite, I'm going to go into more detail of each of the points that I made. First, I'm going to start off with the good, and I'm going to be saving the ending till the very end of the video so I don't spoil anything for people who do not want any spoilers. So I'm going to start off with good. The first 2 points I'm going to start with are graphics and jaw-dropping. There's not much to say except that the game is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous and stunning. My jaw was on the ground, like I said, a lot. There's no real words to explain it. You just have to kind of see it for yourself. If you guys want to look up like some HD videos or pictures of this game or something, and of Colombia, the city that you're in, it's just beautiful. It really is. I highly suggest watching some HD videos of just cinematics or just the trailers, even something like that. Next point that I want to go into more depth on is that there's no punishment for death. Now there kind of is a little bit of a punishment, but it's not like it sends you back to checkpoints. The only punishment for death in this game is that you lose a little bit of money, and that the enemies regain a little bit of health, and you start with a little less health, which isn't that bad because you died anyway, so you'd have no health anyway. But you don't go back to checkpoints or anything, and the enemies regain health, so whatever. They're easy enough to kill anyway. I mean, I was using the sniper the entire time mostly, so most of them died in one hit anyway, so it's not like they had any health to regain anyway. So the next point that I want to go on to is that it incorporated historical figures. Right away, when, I don't want to spoil anything, but pretty much when you first get into Colombia, you have three presidents looking over you. I think it was like George Washington, Jefferson, and someone else, but they were all looking over you. And I know at one point in the game, I ran into a statue of John Wilkes Booth. That was pretty interesting. I liked that they incorporated the historical figures into the game. I don't really know the significance of them, but it was interesting to see them in the game as statues and everything. But I don't really have much else to say about that. So onto my pretty much final point is the storyline for the good. Storyline was great. I don't really want to spoil anything, so you guys would have to go and watch another video or a playthrough of this game if you guys want to see the story. The game was pretty long as well. That's another point I had, and it took me, I did it in 2 sittings. It took me at least 7 hours to beat completely, I think, and that was me pretty much just running through the main story because I didn't like the rest of the game. Like, I didn't like exploring very much, and I'll go into that when I get into the bad. I didn't really like looting and everything and exploring, but I did have a hard time of finding my way around, which could be another thing that made it longer, which isn't a bad thing. I like the exploration of the game is good, but it's kind of forcing it upon you. And the last point that I have is the ending, but I'm going to save that till the end of the video so you guys don't have to hear any spoilers if you don't want to. Now, on to the bad. First point I had in bad was that the X button does too much in the game, and along with that I paired looting and that Elizabeth throws things at you in the game. Alright, so let me go into a little bit more depth of this. The X button does a lot of things in the game. It's like to reload, to loot, and Elizabeth also throws things at you. Like I said, she throws ammo at you, she throws health at you, she throws salts at you. Just randomly, and she throws them at you quite often. And the thing I found with this is it kind of like delays you, so when you're in the middle of a fight and she's throwing something at you, which is when you'll probably need those things, it is helpful to a certain extent, but you can't reload without taking that first, which is a bit odd. I mean, that's why I'm saying X does too much in this game. I didn't really like that. It was a big downer for me. I don't know why, but it took away a little bit of the game, and seeing the same animation over and over, and Elizabeth not actually doing anything to find these things. She just kind of sat there in a corner, like crouched down at one point, and she just kept throwing me ammo and health and salts and everything when I needed it. It's helpful, but I mean, it takes away. It's just too much of the X button. The looting as well, I didn't really like very much. You kind of, at some points you had to be looking directly at it, like when you're trying to pick up the silver eagles on the ground, you have to be looking directly at them to pick them up and clicking X. Other times you could be like just looking in the air and you could just pick up things on the ground around you. With looting bodies, I found that there was too many bodies at points, and that when the bodies disappear, they kind of drop a lockbox, which is good, but again, you can't really tell what you've looted. It says searched next to the things you have searched in and looted, but you use X to go into the menu and X to take it all, and sometimes you can't take it all because you're full on ammo or you're full on health or something, so you just keep looting it and looting it. I think it would have been a good feature to just get rid of the thing if you are already full on it or something like that. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Next point that I had was floaty controls. They didn't happen very often, but at points I felt like the controls were very, very floaty. I really didn't like the controls at all for the skyline. At points it felt very weird. The combat I did not like on the skylines at all. If you don't know what the skylines are, they're pretty much just like metal wires in the sky that you can ride on, and the combat was very odd for those. I didn't really like it, and it was a very weird mode of transportation, and I also didn't like that the skylines went in two directions and I kept going around in circles and circles just to get to one spot where I had to go, and I couldn't really figure that out very well. It was pretty damn confusing, let's just put it like that. The controls are also very floaty with like aiming and everything. I used the sniper mostly through the game, and I didn't have too many problems with it. But with like machine guns and pistols, I couldn't get them down for some reason. Like the controls seemed too floaty for me, and it just threw off my gun game completely. Next point I have is that the game was repetitive. And I told you guys earlier in this video that I had a little story to tell you guys, and I do, to back up this point. I don't want to spoil any of the story for you guys, so I'm going to leave out a lot of the details, but pretty much a quest in the game sent me somewhere. When I got there, that place sent me somewhere else. Then I had to go back to that place, and then I had to go somewhere else and then go back, and it was pointless. I felt like that was unneeded and a bit repetitive. Also throughout the game, you're going through pretty much the same spots. I recognized a lot of the spots over and over and over, including most of the city. And when you're doing skylines and when you're riding on the skylines and everything, it kind of takes you in circles, so that's also repetitive. Too much skyline action, I think, too. They could have dimmed it down a little bit on the skylines. I think there were too many of them, and they focused way too much on skylines in this game. My next point was that there was no variety in the enemies or the guns. Really there wasn't. The only variety in the enemies, like I said, was the guns and if they had armor. That was it pretty much, and then there was one big enemy. Oh, two, actually. I lied. And there's the handyman, and then the... I forget what it's called, but it was the big George Washington / Abraham Lincoln / Comstock, who is the enemy in this game, if you did not know. Pretty much they were all pretty much the same enemies with different guns. The little guys all died in one shot, and if they had armor it took more shots. Well, I was using a sniper, just to get it clear. They all died in one shot from the sniper. The bigger guys with the armor died in a couple shots, and then the big guy, like the George Washington or whatever they were, died one shot to the head, one shot to the body. And then the handymen were a pain in the ass with the sniper, I might add. I did not like the handymen at all. Those guys were a pain in the ass. Oh my god, I hated them. They killed me a lot in this game. I did not like those enemies at all. But they didn't have many of them in the game. They kind of did a lot with the handymen in like marketing and stuff. And I think I only encountered like 3 total. But when you kill them, you get pretty good rewards and stuff like that, so it's worth it. I can understand why they made him such a hard enemy. But again, no variety really. The guns, I think there was only like about 10, a little bit more than that probably. But there's pretty much the blue type of gun, and then there's the red type, which is the exact same pretty much, except just a little spin-off. So my next point is that you can't manually save in this game. That is a huge problem. When I was doing the Let's Play for this game, I actually went to a point and I ended the video, but it did not save there, so I had to, next time I wanted to record, I had to go run all the way back there. I didn't have the same stuff or anything, so it was a little weird, a little different. Even during the game, I really did this in 2 sittings, so that was really the only time that happened to me, but other than that, I didn't really have any problems with it because I did most of it in 1 sitting. But again, manual saving is huge in games like this, especially long ones. I know a ton of people don't beat these games in 1 sitting and don't have the time for it, or work, or have school or something interfering with it. So that's a big thing they needed to add into the game. The next point for bad that I want to talk about is that the guidance in this game was terrible. Right when you get into the game, there was really no tutorial. It didn't tell me any of the controls in the game. I had to figure out all of it on my own. There was little tips that popped up every now and then, but usually they're during like combat and you do not have time to read them at all or focus on them. And it was just terrible. And in the game you could click, I think it was up on the D-pad, and it gave you like a little arrow of where you're supposed to go. That didn't help very much, especially with the skylines. The arrow didn't reach the skylines in a lot of points, and I didn't know which way to go on the skyline. That's why they were mostly confusing to me, because they went around in circles. And when you're on the skyline, the arrow doesn't work. It doesn't tell you where to get off or anything like that. And at times, I think that the arrow was a little short. I think they could have lengthened it out a little longer, so it would have given you more time and like more distance of where to go. But that's just my opinion. It didn't really tell you where to go or what to do or any of the controls in the game very well. But that's just my opinion. Maybe if you played the other Bioshocks, you would have known the controls more. Maybe that's what they were expecting, because not many people haven't played Bioshock 1 or 2. I happen to be one of those people. But that's just what happened, and that's my opinion. I didn't really like the guidance in this game, and they kind of forced exploration upon you, and I didn't like it. That's just my opinion, guys. My 9th point was that the game was very laggy. I encountered lag mostly in the shops. When you go into shops, and I accidentally clicked up as soon as I got into the shops a lot. It lagged terribly to go all the way to the bottom of the list. I don't know why. That's not a very hard thing to do, or it's not a very hard thing to do for the game. I don't know why it lagged so bad, but they could have fixed that. It's not very good. It's not very good programming or anything, in my opinion. That took away from the game a lot. The lag during like cutscenes and everything took away from it too. I don't know if that was just me. My Xbox is pretty shitty, but Xbox is Xbox. They all run the same. They all have the same interior and everything. So I think they should have optimized it a little bit better for the Xbox or something. But again, the lag just took away a little bit. It didn't ruin the game. Now, number 10, my last bad point for the game was that the story was confusing at points. I didn't really understand the story very well, and I still don't, even though I beat the game. The ending, which I'll get more into a little bit later, was pretty mind-boggling and very confusing. I didn't really understand it. I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I understand it a little bit. But again, the entire story was very confusing. I know what the point of the story was and why Booker did what he did and everything like that. But again, a lot of the story seemed unnecessary, unneeded, and could have been scrapped, in my opinion. So guys, now that I've gone through all the points, good and bad, for Bioshock Infinite, and talked a little bit more about each of them, and kind of gone more into detail for each, I want to talk about the storyline and the ending of the game. This is where you should stop the video or skip to the end, because I'm going to be giving spoilers away, and if you don't want to hear them, You don't have to if you don't want to. So turn off the video now if you don't want to hear spoilers. Alright, for everyone that's still here, I'm going to be talking about what I know about the story and the ending, because, again, I said it was very confusing to me. If you guys want to correct me on anything or, like, go more into the story and explain it to me a little bit better, put in the comments, like, explaining it more. Again, just leave it in the comments, put spoiler before it so no one has to read it if they don't want to. Please, just, it would help me a lot, because I don't really understand the story, and if I did, maybe I would, like, enjoy the game a little bit more. So, pretty much the story starts off, you're Booker DeWitt, and you're taking a rowboat to a lighthouse, and in that lighthouse, you sit in a chair, and you, it's like a rocket ship, and you go to Columbia. In Columbia, there's this guy named Comstock, and he's the prophet, and you're apparently the false shepherd who's trying to kill the lamb, I suppose. And the lamb happens to be Elizabeth, I think. Don't quote me on that. This is what I think, guys. I'm not too sure on the story again. So you release Elizabeth from the tower, and you and her pretty much run, and I lost the story after that. I know that Booker was trying to get her back to New York, where he was from, so he could pay off his debts with her. That's pretty much what he was there in the first place to do anyway, I think. If that sentence made sense, I think. And then once he tries to go back to New York, she wants to go to Paris, so his mindset kind of changed, and he just wanted to go to Paris with her, pretty much, and protect her. He really didn't want to pay off his debt or anything. Elizabeth can open tears in the world, which are pretty much just opening it like another world. And she does that a bunch in the story, and it got confusing, really confusing at that point. I didn't really understand it, how people were dead in one world and not in the tear, and etc., and stuff like that. Again, it was very confusing to me, guys. I didn't really understand the story very well. But pretty much, I don't really remember much else. They got to the Comstock house. Here's a big spoiler, so if you don't really want to know, like, really the ending of the story, click away now. Just turn off the video if you don't want to hear it. Pretty much, Booker killed Comstock by pounding his head into a bowl. A stone bowl, and then drowning him in it. Elizabeth kind of hated him for that, but it's whatever. I mean, Comstock was Elizabeth's father. I mean, he wasn't Elizabeth's daughter. Elizabeth was Comstock's daughter. And then pretty much, I don't really remember the rest. Something about Songbird, which was not a big role in this story at all, which I was surprised about. He got a lot to do with the story, I think. So pretty much Elizabeth got Songbird to help them. They took out ships and everything, and then when we got, the ending of the story was kind of very confusing. Again, I just really remember her opening tears. Going back to the lighthouse, and every door that we opened like led into another tear and stuff like that. It was very confusing. I didn't really understand it at all. And at the end, apparently, since like all these doors opened into other like tears and everything and other worlds, apparently Booker DeWitt was Comstock in another world, pretty much. So Booker DeWitt and Comstock were the same people, and Booker wanted to smother Comstock while he was a baby in the end, and apparently he was Comstock, so it was pretty ironic, the ending, and that's pretty much where it just ended, and it left me thinking, that's for sure. But it's really one of those games where you really just have to play through it on your own and kind of try to understand it yourself. I can't really explain it very well, but that's pretty much that. This is going to end it for the spoilers, so I'm going to be giving you guys my final thoughts now, and my final rating, which I'm probably going to give it out of a 10, and if you guys should buy this game or not. Time to wrap up my final thoughts on the game, guys. It may look like this game is really bad in my opinion. I did have a lot more bad points than good points, but the bad points were very small and pretty insignificant, and I think a lot of you guys will get over them pretty easily. I'm just a pretty picky kid with my games. I like perfection. But this game was enjoyable to play. I told you guys I did it all in like a couple sittings. Most of it in one sitting, so it's not very boring. You'll stay entertained, and the game is just gorgeous. Your jaw will be dropped to the floor most of the time, and you won't really be able to talk because you'll just be like struck in awe of how amazing and beautiful this game really is. But again, there are some bad things, and this game is not a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, but totally worth the money. If you're gonna play this game and buy it, I suggest buying it pre-owned. You could even return it and get some of your money back if you buy it pre-owned. I don't know if GameStop gives you your full money back within 7 days. They might if you buy it pre-owned. Don't hold me to that word, because I don't know for sure. But pretty much go and get this game. That's what I'm saying. You should buy this game. It is great, but it is only single player. I think they should have added co-op or something, just to add more of an experience to the game. But that's just my opinion, guys. I give this game an 8 out of 10. I know, pretty harsh. But again, there were a lot of bad things I found in this game. That's just my opinion, though. I didn't really like the things that were bad. There was a couple big things that were bad, but a lot of them were just small little things that I nitpicked out of it. But that's just my opinion, guys. Thanks for watching, and subscribe.